Well, hello everybody. Welcome to a new episode of our show, Tawheed Spiritual Unity of the Three Principles. Today, we're going to talk about a really interesting topic. The title is The Spiritual Blend of Money, Profit, and Being of Service to Mankind. And before that, I just want to share something with you. My experience in the 3P conference that was held 2 weeks ago, virtually, of course. And I had the privilege to be one of the speakers and helping out as well in the conference. And it was such a mind-blowing 3 days. There were a lot of speakers from all over the world, and I just love the fact that it's becoming so diverse. You know, people from all over the world, from different religions, from different with different skin colors, and that's what I loved most about the conference. And also I loved about how universal are these three principles. It makes sense to everybody, to every culture, to every human soul. It's not true to just certain people, it's true for everybody. And I always leave with a feeling of love and calmness that is still with me until now. And I think my mom is is the witness of this. She asked me, "Well, have you been doing these 3 days? And you look different." So this is just one of the things that's happened to you when you hear something and you don't really know, like you don't really know the words that you heard, but something made sense. And it's just a beautiful feeling to be in. So I'll pass it over to Harry
Well, first let's
to introduce the topic.
just a sec
And
before we do that, Omar. What did you talk on? Just so.
oh yes, we have Derek joining us as well. Hi, Derek. So the topic was a round the world conversation, and I spoke along two other people. Well, three other people, two people from Italy and one person from Mexico. And we were just sharing about the universality of this understanding, how in every country it's making an impact, and what kind of impact is making in every part of the world and in every community. And it's just fascinating to see this. It's just beautiful to see the ripple effects of one wise man, was Scottish man, Sydney Banks, that like keeps spreading and expanding in the whole world, and just impacting communities, and now it's impacting the whole globe. Yeah.
Okay. We have two other members who were there at the conference. You just speak for a second? Joe was a volunteer, and what did you think of the conference?
Yeah, for me, I mean, it was kind of really fresh to see the diversity and the kind of young people coming in, and also the Jacqueline Hollows, I mean, kind of the people with her, and how it is spreading into the different areas around the world. And I think it was really a conference of hope, of how it is kind of actually making a massive impact now. And it kind of moved away from the usual sort of doctors with the thoughts and that, and it was a lot more of what's actually relevant happening now.
Good. Derek, even though you're muted, could you just for a second say what you were a speaker, actually the first speaker, with I think Ivalo, and just for a second, just say what your impressions were.
Yeah. Hi, Harry and Omar and everyone else. Yeah, it was amazing. For me, it was just amazing. Like opening it with Ivalu was just amazing. It just showed the diversity of where this understanding is going now, and just sharing from the heart and the way it just flowed. I just found the whole conference just kind of followed that sort of ethos this year, with just from the heart. It was just so beautiful. I never thought I could feel so beautiful at the end of the 3 days from a conference like that. But that's like one of my highest experiences from a get together to do with anything to do with 3Ps. It was just, for me, it was just amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, beautiful. And it's true, when you share in a setting with so much energy, it is a little bit like being a star, and the feelings of it are, well, it's kind of like releasing a dream. And this dream that I feel is what Sydney Banks was emphasizing, because when he was around with Roger Mills, there was a lot of diversity, and then it petered out, and for certain reasons. But what I saw was the diversity came back, but it didn't come back like it didn't come back just because it was diversity, Derek. It came back because of the quality and wisdom of the diversity, what they had to offer, with the unique flavors that you bring. But the unique flavors was only good because the wisdom was so special. And that was similar back in the Mandela time, but now, of course, as Lloyd Fields said, this is a new time, a new level of sharing with everybody. And I have been advocating this for a couple of years, probably one of the very lonely voices in it, but it's finally happened. And great, good to see. Okay, I guess that's enough. Anyway, sounds like a great conference, and that's great. And I hear there was a lot of people there as well.
Yeah, according to Julian, there were like 950, around 100 people that signed up for the conference.
Right.
But for almost 400 people, sometimes more, that were attending the conference live.
Okay, well, let's rock and roll into the topic then. Okay. So that in the Muslim community, what in the different clients I have, the males have very much talked about this complex question. How do we deal with our spiritual beliefs and understandings when we're praying and so on? We understand how to do it then, but when we enter the real world, how do we bring that spiritual wisdom into what I'm doing? And since the world is so crooked or devious or so on, how do I play that so that I do not compromise my ethical and spiritual values? I have a conflict with that. And in reality, as Omar said, that conflict exists everywhere in the world. When people embrace the three principles or a spiritual direction in their life, how do they, when they enter the real world, it's so harsh, it's so cold, it's so greedy, it's so lustful. How do they deal with that? And with that question, what I see is, 2 shows ago, we had a show on love, spiritual love and personal love. And that highlighted the same conflict. How is in personal love or spiritual love different than personal love? And then when we had our show last time with Ray Lewis, it was on faith. And we mostly talked about faith as a spiritual gift. But this time, I'd like to talk about faith as not a spiritual gift, but actually a gift for every aspect of our life. Basically, what I see is people act a certain way in the spiritual reality, and then they act a different way in the physical reality because they've lost their faith. They've lost their faith in the understanding. So they don't actually apply what Muhammad or Jesus or Sydney Banks is teaching, because they hear the sounds of the world, and they hear this thing saying, you have to do it a certain way. And they notice that the people who are very successful are people who are dishonest, who are manipulative. And within that, you start to notice that, well, that's the world and that's the game. And how do I maintain my integrity? How do I walk where I feel I'm in a state of service to mankind? Because I don't feel good just making money. Some people do, but there are a lot of people, me included, that was not that interested in the money side of it. And yet I understood I must make money to pay the bills, to do different things in my life and have freedom. And I had this feeling that if I made money and was spiritual, I'd have more freedom in my life. But basically, as I entered the world, it was like sex. When I started with sex, I just didn't know anything about it, but I had to pretend I did. That was my image of the scenario. And the same thing with business. I had to pretend I knew what I was talking about, and I really didn't. And then I started to notice these insecure games that people were playing and so on, and I became like them. So in a way, the challenge of life that I see it is the challenge in this question of how do you stay true to yourself? It's a question of faith. How do you stay true to yourself while you are walking in this world of low-level operations? And even though I'm knocking business and the economy and so on, I understand that it's the most creative and vital part of what this world is about. Most people's consciousness is on money. Most people's consciousness is on how we can be richer, better, and so on. So that becomes a very difficult scenario. Now I'm going to give you a tip. This is a tip that I experienced. So I'm walking in this journey of trying to find this balance, and I'm following the way of the world. I'm doing all the networking, all the putting out, and only one problem: I'm broke. Just a small. I'm running my own entrepreneurial training business, and I've got zero money in the bank. And I suddenly have a realization. I got to be doing it wrong because it's not working, period. Only problem is I didn't know where right was. So I said, it was Christmas. I said, the heck with it. And it just so happens that Sydney Banks came into the city and was staying at a friend's house, and he invited me to have a day with him. And I went and I said, I'm not going to try and figure out what he's saying. I'm really confused right now. I'm just going to let him pour it in. And I went there, and all this love and wisdom poured in. We watched the movie Gigi, and he said, oh, the rich woman, he should marry the rich woman. I said, Sid, this beautiful young woman here over. He said, no, the rich one, go for the. I go, Sydney Banks, disgusting, but he's just absorbing. I'm just absorbing, and I leave, and I go after the holidays. I have an appointment with this guy, this business, and he makes $1 million bonus every year he takes for himself. His company is super wealthy, super successful, and I've got zero. Now, this is where faith comes in. I was seeing him up high and me down here because he had a lot more money than I had. Image. That self-image was destroying everything that I was doing in business. And I said, oh, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not playing that game. I'm not trying to tell him what he wants to hear. You see, it's the same way as spiritual. Someone will tell you what God is or what love is, but you know they're not talking the truth. It's the same way in business. You know they're not talking the truth. And so he started talking, and I went like this, where we were equal. I just felt like there was a shift. I wasn't going to pretend anymore. I was going to be real. I was going to be honest. And we have two people from prison, and I bet any money, no matter how they describe their experience, they're going to say, I found my true self. I became real again. I was pretending, I was playing the game, but there was something deeper than the game. So like thought, there are two levels of thought. There's the personal level, and then there's God's level. And when you go to God's level, you find your power, your inner power. So I went from insecure. I said, oh, right, I'm not playing that game anymore. I'm just going to be Harry. And I went to equal, and I walked out with a $5,000 check. And I says, is it that easy? That it was just my insecurity and the way I thought the game had to be played? And it was. And everything flowed really easy after that. And I bet Derek and Omar, the same thing happened. Once you saw the way it really is, rather than the way it isn't. You see, Sid used to talk in the old days, you have to see what is, and also when you look at, you see, it isn't this. And this isness is where the truth is seen. And then when you walk into the world of business, you don't compromise your values. You see that yicky feeling? You compromised who you are. That genuine person. Now, I'm 74 now, and I can tell you honestly, in business, I did everything wrong, but it worked out. It worked out. And isn't that the bottom line? It worked out. And so what we're going to try and help people to see is entering that world is no different than entering the world of prison. It's the same. There's a game, and you play the game, and you feel insecure, and you feel like you're in prison. And then the bars of prison, this time mental bars of prison, get removed, and you walk free into that world. Now, what that allows is, since thought is the creative force of life, it allows you to hear God's, Allah's thought. And when you hear Allah's thought, you're there because you bring yourself into it. You bring yourself along. And if you're not creative in the business world, that's because you still don't see thought, the spiritual nature of freedom via the way the right use of thought or the wrong use of thought. Nothing wrong when you're doing that, because then you have to sit back and be a little patient. And as you see it, it starts to happen. So anyway, I have lots more to talk about, but anybody got anything to add to that? Well, we have to. Go ahead, please, Derek.
That's something, Harry. I think everything what you said there, I can so relate to it, but in totally different terms. I haven't done that business thing and gone into, but I used to do that where people are on pedestals. We call it pedestals.
Yes, that's what I was doing.
Level, and if I saw you on a higher pedestal, then my thinking, my action around you would change because I've already set myself at that lower point. And then there's people that I saw lower than me that I sort of would act differently around them because my thinking would tell me I'm above them. But then once I found this understanding, and then through my journey, I've realized that I had that layer of thinking. And it's taken me to deal with people I thought were above me and see that it was my thinking what made me think like that. And then deal with people below me and see that it's my thinking as well that makes me judge them. And but then once that dropped off, then it's exactly the same thing as what you said with the business. My life just seemed to flow so much easier, and everything, it's that isn't and isn't, that isn't thing what you just said. It just flowed in all of the isn'ts, and that's where I found most of my gems, away from what I used to do. And it sounds exactly like what you said, but in a totally different scenario. But the feeling is there of exactly what you said.
And not only that, Derek, what happens is because we're lying to ourselves, or we're insecure or fearful in ourselves, we start creating a image in our mind that we want to tell other people how we're doing. And that image also is false, because we're actually promoting a lie about ourselves. And there's only one thing that makes us feel secure, is when we're walking in truth.
And I think that's why I sort of done it the other way around, because I had to look into myself and question myself, and then find the truth in myself. And then when I looked at other people, then it was clearer to see what was made up and what wasn't made up. It was easier to see the pedestals that I put people on, because I had sort of leveled out my own playing field. So anyone I come into contact with, I was on that same playing field as them. I thought, until the automatic thinking came in, and I realized maybe I wasn't on the same playing field as I thought I was. I have to adjust now and see the layers. And as I see that, it drops off, that thinking drops off.
Yeah, that's really it. The process is the same, and simplicity is the result. All of a sudden, what it was confused and insecure is clear. And now we're walking with spirit, or we're walking with mind. When we're mentored by mind, we're guided by spirit. The reason people lose their heart in business is because they are worshiping the wrong things. They're worshiping things that which will trap them. I've said this over and over again about the Muslim religion, Derek. The best power for me that it has given is detachment. Don't be attached. And in the end, what is it you don't want to be attached to is your own thinking. And when you give up that attachment to what you think the physical world wants you to be, and you just be, because after all, Derek, Sidney Banks had a grade 9 education, and he ended up talking to professors and all these people. He wasn't any different than when he was talking in his living room with his wife bringing coffee. He just was very, very comfortable. And you'd meet him, in a hotel room, and sometimes he'd say, "Oh, I'm really gabby." He just couldn't stop talking about something that he was turned on by. Business and the world is a beautiful oyster when you see that your insecurity is created by your thinking, and you're guided by Allah, God, or so on. One thing, Omar, that I have noticed in this diversity of I act one way, and I act another way in the physical world, is the same thing that I did with spirituality and psychology. In spirituality, the way I experienced the 3 principles, that was the good stuff. And the psychological, that was the boring stuff. It didn't really come together, Omar, until they both became one. Because after all, they are one. You have spirit inside of you. You listen to your spirit inside of you. It unfolds not the way your little mind thinks it should. It unfolds the way Allah thinks it should. Much finer guide than than this scenario. So what I found for the freedom in that world was I really, really had to find my true self. I had to be true to who I am. Derek and Omar come from what many people consider to be a tough situation, but they'll tell you, I think, that it was the greatest experience of their life because it taught them their own bullshit. Oh, excuse the phrase, the nonsense, their own little mind getting caught up. My experience with my divorce, Derek, was the finest experience in the world because I realized what was wrong. There's something wrong with my thinking. I had to wake up to that experience. There was something wrong with my thinking. And to find that balance within myself, once I realized I didn't know, I was free to find out what I did know. But the other way of pretending, you're never going to find it. And in that world, it's tricky. It's really, really tricky because you're meeting people. And money makes a big deal. How do you see money, Omar?
Yeah, I was about to share my experience with money and what I've noticed from my experience, having money and making money. And as you said, Harry, like the more you're not yourself, you feel insecure about it, or you try to you try to do something that you're not to have it. It just makes it even worse for you.
That's
like
that you said something. It makes it worse. That's what I experienced.
Yeah.
It wasn't just that it wasn't working. It made it worse.
It made it worse, and I think, from what I saw, is that it made it worse for me because it made me go to the illusion more. To look for money in the world of illusions and not, finding myself first, and then being secure and being who I am and making money. And even in my worst situations, like I remember, like when I used to live in London, I experienced some sort of crazy situations where I lost my job, and I have exam next week, and I need to pay rent, and I need to do this and that. So you can imagine all the stress you're feeling and all the thinking that's going on in your mind. And I remember like 3 days or 4 days before I have to pay my rent, I received a call from this lady that I've worked for like once or twice, and she used to call me, but then she stopped. It was just sometimes it's not like a flexible job that you could always go and work with her, but it was just like sometime when she needed you, she give you a call. And she gave me a call 3 days before I have to pay my rent. And she asked me to come to work 3 days in a row. And I still remember it was the same amount I had to pay for my rent. Like I didn't have that amount. And I was like blown away by the kindness of the design, like that we are always being taken care of. When we don't see it. That's worrying about it and trying to figure it out is not help. It's not really helping. And the more we trust faith, like we discussed faith last time, the more we have faith, the less we will have these crutches that doesn't allow us to see things clearly and then see what we could do and what we could not do. And so like since that time, I always, when I find myself in this kind of situations, I always know, there's a deeper knowing that I will be fine no matter what. And with that feeling, I always manage to, like, I've never been there again in that situation ever. And I've always managed to to pay my rent, to do this and that, and pay everything that I had to pay. And that it was just a humbling experience, and it was a wake-up call as well for me. And yeah, like if I ever find myself in this situation again, I just know that I will be fine, and I will find a way to make, like, to make a living. I mean, if I stop doing what I do now.
It's
Yeah.
important to understand that on the physical level, it's a game. And we have to learn how to play this game. Just like Monopoly or Scrabble or baseball or football or whatever. We have to learn how the game is played. When we're insecure, we bring a lower level of ourselves. Now, what's different, the way the world looks at, they say if you're traumatized, you have to get rid of the trauma. But what we're saying is, if you're traumatized or insecure about what you're doing in the world, in a state of panic or in a state of that, what the principles do is they bulletproof. They're bulletproof. They bulletproof that if you the right use of thought, the wise use, accessing your wisdom, you will deal with that situation, which is no different than having cancer or divorce or whatever it is in your life. You will see what you need to do. What basically happened was I saw that I was overthinking my problems too much. And instead of trusting, having faith in God's design, I wanted things to happen in my own way. All that happened was I walked away from what I understood about the principles and their application, what I do with the principles when the game is on. Sydney Banks taught me something very valuable at the beginning of my training career. I was working and training people in computer software. And he said something to me specifically. He said something about people can't learn when they're in a state of panic. And when I would go to a client, and all these clients were older people because they're the only ones who would pay for the services then. And I would go, hi, Mark, good to see you. And I would go into the teaching, and the client was always in a state of panic because at that time, computers were really scary, unlike now, where they just don't work all the time. And I would pretend to teach the person. I would just calm their mind down. And once they calmed down, I taught. I started to teach. And what I learned from that was you can't teach something to people whose minds are in an insecure state. And I also saw that not only that, I can't myself operate when I'm in a state of panic. So we notice that when we're coming up to scary situations, and Omar, it is scary. I mean, let's face it, your rent's due, and that person isn't going to say, "Oh, that's okay." Like, it can be scary, but the reality of it is, in every situation, how do we react to that situation? With wisdom or with scared or panic or that? And when we recognize the game, we start to see how the game is playing. Now, I'm going to give you a simple example. I'm working for this company early on. And I know I'm an old guy, and early on means like even before you were born for some of you. And this guy would always do a number on me. He was my boss, sorta, and he would come up and he'd always do something. And I said, and it drove me nuts because it was nonsense. Boy, I like that other word a lot. So he would do a number on me, this power trip, and I would answer him, and then we'd stay around for half an hour, and I always left really feeling bad. One day he came, did his number, and I just deflected his thought to somebody else. So he moved on. And I says, oh, is that how that game is played? You see, you start to see how the game is played. And it's the same way in three principles, to be a coach or to be whatever we're doing in life or with our wife. If we play, learn how to go. Now, here's the trick. As far as I can see, the three principles are only saying one thing and only one thing. Positive feelings lead to mental health. Sid would define success as happiness and contentment. Positive feelings lead to happiness and contentment. Insecure things about money, about what I'm achieving in my job, is going to create mental illness. It's just obvious that I am creating my lack of success. However, if I'm unsuccessful and I don't get upset about it, I'll shorten the time that I'm unsuccessful. But if I go in a state of panic and I'll just exasperate the situation, and the situation will explode in my face. I'll give up hope, I'll lose faith, and I'll start to lie to myself. And that's what I did. I did that a lot. Of course, Derek and Omar would say, well, we did that a lot in prison too. Joe would say, yeah, I did it a lot in my world. And Mark, I would imagine you'd say the same about yourself. So Mark, how do you see money?
I see money as it's a tool, but it depends how the individual wants to use the tool. So it's like a pen. A pen has many different uses. You can write with a pen, and you can maybe use a pen as a ruler or something to level something. So when I look at money, it is a tool, and it comes in many different ways too. Money can come as, there's many different types of money. So you've got money as paper money, and you've got money as this is money. You're sharing, being here, this is money.
It's a spiritual currency, as Harry calls it.
Yeah, well, beautiful, even better, because it's money as what we know it as money, is what we call it. But the reality of it is that it doesn't really exist anyway. It's just ones and zeros on a computer screen, you know. And I think it comes in many different ways. Money comes through blessings. Money comes through somebody saying hello. But I think just the majority of people attach money as paper, as physical, as you know, I've got this piece of paper here. This is real. This is tangible. But you know, you could be wanting somewhere to rent, to live, and one of your friends come and say, "Oh, look, you can come and spend 6 months with me." You haven't looked at it as that is money. But the reality of it is that you are being supported, but you're being unsupported. But you think that the support has to come a particular way, through someone giving you the money so that you can pay out the money. No, we're always supported. We're always guided. It's, you know, so that's how I kind of look at money that way.
Mm.
Can you say something about that, Anand? What you just,
Yeah, what I would like to say is money is like a give and take, and we can give and take anything. We can do this kind of money thing, or you can say business in any field of your life. Rather, you are doing gardening, rather, you are doing anything. It doesn't matter.
that's
For
beautiful.
me, money is like this. Yeah.
That's a beautiful way to look at it. Money is no
Mm.
more important than anything else. That
Mm.
I love that. In fact, I've never heard that. That's
Thank
really an
you.
original thought. I just love that feeling that you're right. You're absolutely right. It's only our attachment to it.
Exactly.
Mm.
Our expectations and our how we perceive money. It's all about that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Same story as everything. Amazing.
absolutely. I once heard, I think Alan Watts, in one of his talks, he said that you could be the richest person in the world if you are in the middle of the Sahara Desert and you're the richest person in the world. How this money would serve you? You wouldn't be needing money in that situation. And it's the same when you're have a lot of food, like, and you're, you're not hungry anymore. Like, that wouldn't help you to eat all the food. And so, yeah, as Anam said, we attach a lot of feelings like security, happiness, uh, contentment on a piece of paper. And if we look at it more deeply, how it all started, like back in the days, people weren't using money; they were just exchanging goods. I'll give you, I don't know, I'll give you a book, you give me another book, or I'll give you this and you give me that. And so I think it's people start using, or like they created money just when people traveled, they couldn't take their cows or their uh, herd with them, so they couldn't exchange that. And so money was created as a mean to facilitate exchanging value. So we really forget, or we don't know where money, like how money came from to life, and we attach a lot of emotions to it. And as you said earlier, Harry, like the more we think of it as a source of our feeling and security, and the more we go crazy on it, and you feel insecure and be stressed when we don't have it. And that's again going with the illusion, playing in the words of illusions, and forgetting to turn back inward where all these experiences are coming from. And the more we turn inward, we see things clearly. We see money as it is. It is a tool, as Mark said, to exchange value, and it doesn't mean that I will feel better having more. I mean, you will feel better, yeah, but the feelings doesn't really come from it, and that made a huge difference.
Yeah, it is a huge, I'm just sorry for interrupting, but
Yeah.
Sid, in the early days on Salt Spring, we were all broke. Like, I mean, really broke. And so money, we always thought, because we had everything. We had Sydney Banks, the Enlightenment experience. Our lives were changing before our very eyes. But we were always thinking, if we had money, then we'd have it all, which turned out to be a lie, by the way. But the second thing was this guy who was really Jewish guy, who was really obsessed, lawyer, with money said, well, if I gave you $5 million, how would you feel? I know that would make you feel good. And then if I gave you another $5 million, you would feel good about that too, but not quite as good as this first 5 million. And then if I gave you another $5 million, you'd probably say, you know, what's the big deal? And I actually see that is that as money comes to you, your obsession is more like an addiction. It's the game, the enticement of playing the game to get money. It becomes more important than the actual getting. It's the same way, Omar, in drinking. My co-host, Greg Stuckey, had a brilliant thought. He says, you get a high or a pleasure when you have the thought of getting the drink. And then when you actually go to the bar and have the drink, there's very little pleasure in it. And it's that thought of attachment that we have. And you see something, Omar, I'm sorry for going on so long, I cut you off. But you see, my mother was the most obsessed person in the universe about money. Her whole reality went around money. So much so that when it was her grandkid's birthday, she made sure she didn't see him because she didn't have to give a present. That's the opposite of most people. All her life, everything revolved around money. And then at about 90, she lost all her attachment to money. And guess what type of person she became? And if you could lose your attachment to money and be a good human being, I'd say you've really found something pretty deep.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. Yeah. The thing is just seeing things as they are, and you know, operating from our true self, you know, without trying to be someone else or be this or that or prove something. That kind of like that you know, type of insecure, you know, behavior is what makes it even worse for us to make more if we want to make more money. I mean, there is nothing bad with making more money, like that, don't get us wrong. It's just that it's not like your security is not tied into it, your well-being is not tied into it, your happiness is not tied into it. And the more we see this, the more we are flowing with life. When we are in a state of flow and just being ourselves truly, it really comes. And you know, like some people say, a law of attraction, this is like, you know, a higher vibration or frequency where we attract this kind of things, if you want to talk about it this way. And yeah, the more we turn inward and operate from there, it really comes in miraculous ways. When you don't see it, it's coming. Where we don't see it, it's coming at all. It comes from places you've never imagined them it's gonna come from, and it's a blessing. Mark, you want to say something? So you raising your hand.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think with money itself, I speak for myself, as a child, I was taught as an attachment to have an attachment to money, in a sense of go to school, learn the golden rule. You'll, you know, if you don't learn enough, you're not going to get a good job. You're not going to have money. You're not going to have this. And that's the society we live in. So is it really my fault that I have that sort of attachment to it or that lacking? And at the same token, how I look at it as well is that this conversation brings it up for me to be aware that there is nothing lacking. Because, as I said before, money comes in all shapes and sizes and forms. But it's because we've labeled the piece of paper money that we think it has to come as the piece of paper, but we don't see it coming in different ways.
Anand, can you say a few more things? You put a quote. I love listening to you, so it's a selfish request.
Thank you so much. What I would like to say is it depends on person to person how we take our money. Like when we are doing, when we would like to go or book a ticket, we need to give a paper money to them. It's their separate reality how they took that money on. But we can do give and take in another way as well. It's our separate reality. So yes, separate reality do kicks in a lot. And how people perceive it, we need to see that things uh, by by um, by living in with the wisdom where, what you have inside. It's just like most of the time might be they were outside in, but we as we know that we need to be inside out, so we don't need to judge them, we don't need to say anything, we just need to be there with them and uh, just love them, give them compassion. It's like maybe they can't see it the way we can see things.
Yeah.
So if they have that space where they can listen things, only then we need to share. Might be they don't need that compassion, love at that time, they need to listen something. So we need to be there with the passage of time with our wisdom. And yeah, wisdom will let us know that what we need to do at what time and what space.
As you're talking, I suddenly realized what money is our opportunity to show people how to be with money. Like when we give, when we're generous, when we honor
Yeah.
Allah or God or when we think of others less with more than ourselves and give that way, it influences it models a healthy way of sharing.
Exactly. If they're showing in their way, we need to show them another way as well.
And it's tricky because we have to pull it out of our pocket.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Excuse me. Yeah.
Harry,
We
we've got
don't,
Omar.
yeah.
Omar, want to say something? Would you like to unmute yourself, Omar?
Hey, hey guys, can you hear me?
Omar, yeah.
Okay.
Omar, want to say something? Would you like to unmute yourself, Omar?
Can you hear me? Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, I can. Mark, can you unmute yourself? Okay. Would you like to unmute yourself, Omar?
Can you hear me? Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you. Oh, we heard you. Now he's
Omar? I don't know what's happened.
okay.
Derek, would you like to share something?
Yeah, I would just think that's an interesting thing what you're talking about, the money, because so much of what you talk about, I relate to. Everything what you talk about, I relate to basically. It's that attachment to what we put on money and expectation. But I've seen that all of it is overrated because it's like what you said as well, Omar. When you get into that trap of chasing the money, and then when it's not there, you get deeper into the illusion, trying to chase more money or trying to get after the money. And so much what you said about when you don't concentrate on the making money. When for me, I found concentrating on just doing the right thing and just being true to myself, then things come from avenues that you weren't really expecting, and the money sort of takes care of itself. And exactly like what I think Anand was saying, you can't really, if somebody's doing it their way, you can't really say to them, don't worry, don't this, everything, money's just fault, because they're in their own separate reality. You just have to leave them. And if you're living by that, then eventually they'll be curious and come and say, be interested. And when they're interested, that's when they're ready. And maybe you can share that with them. But yeah, it's so much, to me, it's so much geared around chasing something and then realizing that you've been chasing your tail all of my life. Because it's not about chasing the money, it's about finding myself. And when I find myself, the money doesn't even really matter. It's taking care of my family and being happy from within. And like I said, the money is nice. Money makes it a bit more comfortable, but you just got to know what it is that money's limitation is, and it has got limitations. But it's from within there. I like the way he said the spiritual. What do you say about the money? This is like currency.
Spiritual currency.
Yeah, spiritual currency. I love that. I love that. Yeah.
And it also
This is Harry's favorite currency. I think he's rich if you have to count like all spiritual currency. Omar, you want to say something?
Hey, can you guys
Please
hear
go
me?
again. Yeah.
Perfect. Sorry, my phone was acting up. I
Oh, it's
was gonna
okay.
say, money was a big part of my life really before the understanding, and I love it because it's like a big book of lessons, and I saw money as everything because it is because you need money for everything, to eat, to clothe, to live somewhere, to do things. You need money for everything. So to me, money was everything. So I see how people innocently mistake it for everything, and they want to go all out for it. And it's like when you chase money, you forget to enjoy life. And I feel like that's the separation between them, the feeling. I didn't really feel good when I was chasing money and doing this for money, and money was at the top of everything. And I actually didn't feel good. But now that money is like a secondary or third, and there's a lot of other things first, my health, my love, my feelings, all of that comes first for me. And when I focus on those things, I feel better. And that's just the way I've navigated through the feeling, because I spent about 23, 24 years of my life chasing money, chasing money, because money was everything. And I needed money. And I thought the drive behind it was happiness. That's why I was innocently mistaken, because I thought if I get this money, we will be happy. We'll be out of this mess. We'll be out of that mess. We could go there, do this. And that was at my drive. But with that, I forgot to enjoy every day. Every day was kind of missed. And there was some good moments, but for the best part of it, I was thinking about money. And now going forward on for like the last 4 years, money hasn't been the root of anything really. Money is still something that's needed to further things and do things and extend things and help and still pay things, eat. But exactly like Derek said, it kind of comes naturally. It's not something that takes up my day or my space, or causes me to have a busy mind, or it's none of that anymore. It's simply a thing that, okay, we gotta have that to get this or get that to pay. And it's nothing, it's not, there's no weight on it anymore. Where before I would have had a lot of emotions and a lot of thinking, and I would never be present. But I feel like now I'm just more present than ever.
You
But I
mentioned
just wanted to add that.
a really Omar Wilson. When you feel the flow, like often people talk about love or the energy of the three principles as a river or as a flowing. When you feel the natural flow of money, it harmonizes with all our other values. There is a flow. To you personally, you have a flow. I have a flow. And when you feel, I love what you were talking about, because that is actually true what you're saying. It is a flow. It comes as it comes. And Omar, one of the things Sid, one time I was with Sid, and I was, and my history is being insecure about money. And he said to me, Harry, because I was jealous of him. Can you imagine? I was jealous of the enlightened man. And he said, Harry, you have to understand, my level of consciousness takes care of me. It just naturally, and now I can sort of see what, I didn't really understand it until you were talking. There is a flow. And as you open your hearts up to hearing the flow, the river moving through you, you'll see, actually, we are taken care of. And the noise, the insecurity about money, it's impossible to see the flow. It's like watching a hockey game. There's a flow to it.
Yep.
Or there's just guys shooting and scoring. You know, there's a whole thing happening. So money is the natural harmony of what God gives us as we listen to the river flowing through us. Rumi didn't say that, Harry Durbitsky did.
Yeah. Sounds like Rumi though.
Yeah.
I just remember the quote, you know, like I love quotes. I remember the quote about money that says, money can buy you a fine dog, but only love can make wig his tail, can make him wig his tail. Only love can make him wig his tail. And it's so true. You can buy anything with money. It's fun. But love is important. Where you're coming from is important. And knowing that money can't give you really that. This like talking about this, just a misunderstanding about money. Like, we're not saying that it's bad to have it. We're not saying it's evil to have it, you know, a lot of it. What we're saying is just that it's not the root, the source of our feelings. It doesn't really make us feel secure, even if it seems like it. It doesn't make us feel, yeah, you know, happier, even if it seems like it. I still remember when I was like, I really wanted to buy this phone, like about 6 years ago. And when I bought it, I thought that I'll, like, you know, my life would be more fun. I don't know what was I thinking. And when I bought the phone, I broke it the first week. And, you know, it was like, okay, so what's next? Like, now I've got this expensive phone. So what's next? Like, it's all about the feeling, as Omar says. It's all about being good with yourself. And when you're good with yourself, and when you're in the flow, in that space within, money flow into your life. from 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 um, from unknown source. It flows.
And also you get the privilege of watching other people help you and give you when you don't have money. We need support.
Yeah.
And that happens. One of the outstanding features of Sydney Banks was most of my life is without money. And he always made sure that I could go to a conference. He never let that interfere with the ability to help a person, to share in whatever ways he could. And that was obvious when you were with him. He was always paying for the dinner. He was always compassionate and caring. And he never let people's outside circumstances dictate to what he was hearing. Never once. If somebody was on the street and they were ready to hear, he would be there sharing with the person. He never let any images. And he loves stories like, I was in prison. This is a prison story, Derek, you probably and Omar haven't heard. And this guy had no legs and he's in prison and he says, what you're teaching me is more valuable than my legs if someone gave me my legs back again. Those are the feelings that he considered to be rich and so on. And in reality, he wasn't good with money. And then when George came, he kind of took care of that for him, type of thing. But he was always sharing, always giving, but impersonally. If you were stuck in a negative pattern, he wasn't kissing your bum. He was letting you know that wasn't so cool. But the reality of it, he was always treating you like a real human being. That's all we are, a bunch of real human beings in a global village. You know, this idea of like, what's the best feeling in the world? Helping someone.
Harry, this is interesting what you just mentioned. I was watching a French documentary, and the documentary was about visiting different places in Morocco and specifically small villages. And I remember where the guy was asking these people like to sleep in their house, and they were like, of course you can stay, like doesn't matter how long you want to stay here. So they eat with the family, they had something to drink with them, everything for I think 3 days. And when they were leaving, they wanted to give some money to the family, and they didn't want to take it. They didn't want to take it. They don't have money. Like, they are poor. But they really get life. For me, like, this is what it means. They really get life. It's not about that. They are happy. They are really happy. They don't need money. They have food. They have everything they need, but they don't have like actual money, a lot of it. And it really touched me. It really touched me because, there are some people like this who want to be of service to mankind, or just be nice to someone without expecting anything in return. We don't see this often now.
That's so beautiful.
Lots of expectation.
That's what Sid said we're supposed to be in business. When Derek and Omar share, they're really in service to mankind. They're sharing their experiences. That's all instead of taking, be of service to mankind. And by the way, when you become good at something, more money comes because you're better at it. Be better, improve, get into really becoming an expert and enjoying your passions and expressing it. But as you get better, what happens is you relax And the moment you relax and have a good time at work, making money, more money comes because you're so relaxed. And what's more important, being technically good at something or being good with human beings? And everybody's talking. Nobody's good with human beings. So if you have a good way of being, that's what I see with you, Derek and Omar. It's like, it's cool that you have this prison experience. But what you really learn, what you're really good at is you're pretty good with human beings. Like you like they can feel the juice, the energy, the love, the wisdom. You guys are actually, that's your strength, not that you were in prison, not that even the three principles. The three principles is just a spiritual force expressing itself in as a spiritual, like it's you. Like nobody walks around Omar Wilson and Derek Mason. You guys aren't being yourself. You know, they're not, nobody's saying that. Everybody's saying, ooh, and yet look at the help. Look at the help. And is it coming from you? You go, well, actually, it's God. It's God's energy. I'm just thankful I'm here to notice it.
And you know what, Harry? When you spoke earlier, if I could just say quickly about Sydney and just giving back to people or just taking care of people. From my kind of background, all my life, most of my life, I've been chasing money, and I thought that felt good, and it never felt there was something missing, but that was just like a intellect good or intellect feeling of happiness. But like you said, when I share and the feeling that I get back, or when I go back into prisons and talk to ex-prisoners, talk to prisoners, the feeling that I get back from them is better than anything I've ever felt at any point in my life, making money, doing. And then when you broke it down, it sort of brought me back to what Mark was saying. That is where the real currency or the real money is, in forms of giving, or if somebody comes to stay at my house, I let them stay. They're not looking at that as a monetary terms, but the feeling I get from just helping that person is just for me alone, just makes me feel alive and happy and at home. And all of that expectation, what I used to put on money, I'm getting that feeling from that right there. So you have to feel it to know it. And then now I can sort of see money in its context a bit more and know where I need to be looking for my spiritual currency is from people like you guys. And if I can give out a little bit, then I'll give out a little bit. And if I feel something back, I'm in the right place. And the way you just articulated it was beautiful for me. I felt it, man. And then it, like I said, it brought me back to what Mark said, and I could proper see that now. Proper see that. And like I said,
Mark,
it's not about prison as well. It's just about the truth, just being just the truth. And if that is part of my truth, and that's part of my truth on my journey, but it is about just walking in truth, as you like to say. I love it. I love it.
It's
Yeah,
the
thanks for
best
sharing.
feeling. It's the best feeling in the world. What do we remember?
Mark, want to say something?
Yeah, I totally agree with Derek, and I agree with everybody. It just occurred to me, popped into my mind that people get confused, or I was speaking for myself, that I used to get very confused with what money was and what riches was. And money is just money, but richness in, you can walk down the street and hold your head high and somebody give you something. Even this is worth more than money. This is riches. And this richness can be shared and just delivered and felt naturally. But the money can never be felt because the feeling ain't gonna last. But the richness of it will always last when you carry your richness within. People will always accept it. And it's like when you think, so, when we talk about the third world and we talk about people, I was thinking about, with all this COVID stuff, what was going on, I was thinking that really and truly, we are the third world, but we just don't know it, because all of those people who live in bushes, and they can live off the land. Their electricity, they ain't got no electricity. They're rich. They're wealthy more than me. But here I was going on believing that I am rich. But as soon as COVID hit, bang, the mind started playing. Oh, what if they cut the electricity off? If they do this, if they do that? And the amount of things that was going around in my own head. But then when I started to look at it, what we class or what we've been told as is the third world, they're actually the real world, because they can survive and they connect naturally through spirit. See, so I just thought I'd just share that, because that's what just kept coming up for me with money. And I realized that my attachment, I want to be rich. I am rich. But the biggest joke is that my mind saying, no, you're not rich. The only way you're going to be rich is having the paper money in your hand. But it's there. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful, man.
Yeah, that's so. Do you know what, Mark? That ties in with one story something that I saw. Because when I was in prison, I used to have pictures on my wall of my family, and everyone used to come in and say, "Oh, you got a nice family. Yeah, you got nice. Yeah, a nice family, but I'm in prison, man. Yeah." Even the officers would come and say that, and I was like, "Yeah, but I'm in." And it's only when I got this understanding and I came out and I looked at my family and I said, "Wow, do you know what? When they've been telling me that all the time, that is where my riches were. All this time I've been chasing money, and I've had the pot of gold right there in front of my eyes all my time, and I haven't bothered to look. I've been too busy chasing money. And then I realized the same thing what you just said. Then I saw the difference between money and riches. What I build my own riches, and I embrace my riches and nurture my riches and foster my riches. Money is just something to facilitate that sort of journey, however I want to do it. But that is where my real, if you want to talk about riches, that is where my riches lie, with my family and my love. And even you, Pete, having you guys around me and being able to sort of know you guys is all adds to my riches, to make me know that I'm the richest person on the planet to me. And that fills my heart with this joy. And I'm getting in it again, so I was going to mute myself. But yeah, same thing. That just, see, when people talk and you feel it more than the words, I can feel the words. And yeah, sometimes it's hard to express it and get it out. But yeah, that's how it made me feel right now.
I'm gonna start crying, Derek. Thank you, man. Thank you. Harry, you wanna say something else, like just to sum this up?
Well, the feeling that how lucky we are because of the uncovering of the three principles by Sid has, no matter what our circumstances are, we have had to evolve through our attachment to money and the status that we were looking for. That's part of our journey through that. And what I feel is something that I experienced. There came a point in my life where I realized I needed to get more experience in the three principles to share with people. I just understood that. I looked at Chip and Elsie and I said, I could sort of feel where they're coming from. It wasn't that far away for me, but boy, they had a lot of experience. They could talk about all this stuff. So I said, for the next year, I'm going to forget totally about money. And anytime money was offered, I gave it away to the people I was working with. I never made so much money in my whole life. I couldn't believe it. I never made, it was like, it's like love. You give it away without any thinking about it because it's coming from your heart. And it came in. I went, is it really that way? I had to open my eyes. That's what Sid was talking about when he was telling me, Harry, don't be jealous of me. Just step into a higher level of consciousness and it will attract your passions and your ways to express it. You know, it's nice to have a path like Derek and Omar have, but the reality is they could talk in front of anybody and their story would be the same. They might even put on a suit and a tie. That would be kind of fun to see. But the reality was, voila. And that's who we are. We're many, many, many people. But if we serve mankind, we're going to be rich. To quote, not Rumi, but Mark Harris.
Well, such a nice way to end this. I would love to, yeah, this has been an amazing topic. I didn't see it coming this way, but it's just the conversation was so vibrant, and I just loved it, all of it. So I would love to thank our participants and yeah, for sharing and, you know, listening or just being here with us and sharing this space together. Big
Can
love,
I have a
Omar.
self-promotion? I just got this on
Yeah.
my front door today. This is my new book.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Isn't it a beautiful cover? This is what our show is about. The previous book,
It's about nice covers, right?
yeah, the guy was in a tunnel trying to get out, like prison, to a breath of light. This one, he's walked into total freedom. He's free of all the obstacles of life. Addiction, there is a way to total freedom. Money, there is a way to total freedom. You know, total freedom. That's what we want. That's to me my motto of life. I do not.
So
want,
how can you get a copy of the book if you want?
oh,
to?
Amazon.
Amazon. It's on Amazon. Okay.
Yeah. And Derek, I'd like to send you one for free, just for fun. If you could send me your address, Derek, I'll get.
Omar wants one as well, Wilson.
Yeah.
I'll do that, Harry. Quicker than you think.
If you could send me your thing, I'll be more than happy, because the idea, Derek, it's so interesting. You share with your love and your heart and your soul, the same as I do, you know, type of thing. But I had a client who read my book and they had jumped a level of consciousness. And I went, is it real? Oh, that is really unbelievable. Anything that helps a little bit. And so, yeah.
Thank you for that, Harry.
Oh, and to not put it on, Joe Fletcher has a poem in the book.
Oh, wow.
Called The Butterfly. Just to promo you, Joe, a little bit. Anyway,
well, thank you, everyone. That was lovely. So yeah, in 2 weeks' time, we've got Ivalo as a guest speaker.
Ivalo from Greenland.
From Greenland.
Yes, and it's again the idea of our show is we're a expansion
diversity
of diversity. Yeah, said well, Omar Ben Mosa. Yeah.